Hey everyone, this is Nathan Cross checking in, and for today's episode of Healthline, what I'm going to be talking about is the importance of food, but also how our body is set up as a system or an organization, and ultimately how food, or the nutrients that we get from our food, gives us the energy to keep everything flowing, to keep everything connected, and how it will ultimately affect our performance. Conceptually, when looking at a topic like this, I think we should start out by looking at our body as a system, an organization of interconnected parts one way or another. And we can think of food, or rather the nutrients that we get from food, as a power source keeping everything flowing from one process to the next. So when I talk about our body being a system or organization, we can look at things from the chemical level. Chemicals looking at atoms, but moving up specifically to molecules. So going from the molecular level all the way to the cellular level, from the cellular level to the tissue level to the organ level to the organ system level, and then organ system level to the entire organism as a whole. So ultimately, when I talk about things at the molecular level, I'm really just talking about things at the chemical level, and that's what we want to focus on, things going on at the chemical level. Now at this point, there probably is a gap in knowledge when I talk about things going on at the chemical level, but the one term that many of you might be familiar with is something called metabolism. Now ultimately, metabolism is just an accumulation of all the chemical processes that are occurring within our body. Some people may just say, in regards to metabolism, I have a really good metabolism. I can eat whatever I want, or I can, eat a bunch of different stuff, and that's not going to stay on me too quickly. It's going to digest really quickly. Or other people, I don't need to eat that often. I have a really slow metabolism, and especially as it pertains to growing older, metabolism slows down. But when we talk about metabolism and the chemical processes happening, there's really two metabolic pathways we want to focus on, and those are catabolic pathways and anabolic pathways. Catabolic reactions are processes that favor sort of the degradation, the breakdown of materials, specifically larger and complex molecules to smaller and much more simpler ones. And that's essentially what we want in a lot of cases. Whereas we have anabolic reactions or anabolic processes, whereas they favor the synthesis, the build up, the development of smaller cells or smaller molecules into much larger or complex ones, especially as it pertains to things like cell growth or tissue development or even reparation. So the first major key is that if we have all these metabolic processes and chemical reactions occurring within our body, we're going to need an energy source of sort to drive those reactions towards happening. You see, unlike plants, us humans, we don't have the ability to make our own food, hence their own source of energy. They would use the process called photosynthesis. Many of you may have heard of that. They take, with the help of sunlight, they convert water and carbon dioxide into mostly carbohydrates, mostly sugars, and ultimately that is stored as starch in their system. But again, glucose. They use glucose just as we do. Ultimately, they're called primary producers because they create their own food. Us, if we were to eat plants, we take those parts rich in starch, break them down once they're consumed into a much simpler molecule called glucose again, and then we use that in order to drive all the processes that we need to perform. But when we break down this starch or other materials, depending on what we're eating, to access this glucose, we're also releasing the energy held within those chemical bonds. So the next major key for you to remember is that the energy that we need is trapped within the chemical bonds of the food that we eat. So when that energy is released, our body converts it into something called ATP, which is an acronym for adenosine triphosphate. Now ultimately, you don't have to worry about what that is too much, or the chemical composition, but ultimately that is the energy currency that our body uses. Because our body is a hierarchy of organization, when your body needs energy, it means your cells need energy. If your cells need energy, it requires ATP to carry out those high energy tasks. ATP is being broken down and absorbed, specifically the last phosphate group, or really the energy from that group. These are high energy bonds, mind you, are being released, being used by your cells. And this isn't just a matter of basic chemical processes, things that are happening within our body, whether it be contributing to digestion or your respiratory system, you're breathing, circulating blood throughout your body. Ultimately, this eventually translates to you in action, whether it be playing football, playing soccer, track and field, doing basic exercises, walking up and down the stairs in your house, different things. That translates to everything. Now, obviously, there's going to be a confluence of different factors affecting what your energy level is looking like on the daily, rest and other factors, but you really are going to need to fuel yourself in order to perform at a high level. And this just comes down to making sure that you're eating enough nutrient-rich food. Alright everyone, so that's the video. I know I got into quite a bit just now, a lot of sciencey stuff, but ultimately I think it's really important that we really break that type of thing down and understand how our body works before we start adding a bunch of external stimuli to it. Working out in a different way, eating in a different way, training in a different way, just different things to consider before you take different feats and changing your regimen. Now, ultimately, if you guys have any questions, concerns, you can make sure to leave that in the comment section below. Make sure to watch out for the next episode of Healthline, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Nathan Cross, checking out. Peace.